love that you work out so much. This is so amazing. This is so great. But in reality, is so I could actually eat. So I could allow myself to eat, because it's like, I can't allow myself to eat and have this food. And when I did,
you couldn't allow yourself to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, my heart broke in that sentence. You
Yeah.
can't allow yourself. Could you imagine having to give yourself permission? Hey besties, and welcome to our cozy corner of the podcasting world. It's time for another episode of Share a Latte podcast. Here, extraordinary women gather like friends at a coffee shop, sipping on life's challenges and sharing how they've triumphed over every obstacle. I'm your host, Sukree, your virtual coffee bestie. I'm here to brew up a heartwarming cup of empowerment, one inspiring story at a time. Imagine us nestled up in a cozy cafe, surrounded by the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee, all set for a journey that stirs your heart, awakens your mind, and gears you up to tackle any challenge that's thrown your way. In each episode of Share a Latte, remarkable women share their stories about how they've weathered life's storms and emerged wiser, stronger, and more determined. These stories are like a warm embrace for your soul, reminding you that resilience and determination are the secret to success. So grab your favorite brew, get comfy, and get ready to soak in these amazing conversations. You'll discover your own power to turn these tough times into incredible strengths. The Share a Latte podcast sprinkles hope, courage, and the belief that you can not only handle life, but thrive into your day. All right, besties, it's time to embrace those tales of triumphs and get ready for another episode of Share a Latte. Welcome back, latte and podcast lovers, to another delightful episode of Share a Latte. I'm your host, Sukree. Today, we're about to embark on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment that's as comforting as a warm cup of coffee. I have a special guest with us, Melissa, also known as the One Activator. Her passion is a bit like the first sip of your morning coffee, igniting, reawakening, and reminding us all that we're unique and inherently enough. Melissa wears multiple hats, from being a mom, a partner, and a daughter, as well as a friend. But her most significant role is embracing herself as the One, the title she believes we all claim for ourselves. In this episode, we dive into Melissa's extraordinary journey, one that's a bit like discovering your new favorite coffee blend. We'll explore the transformative power of self-discovery and self-empowerment, and the profound idea that each of us is already whole, just as we are. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's brew up some inspiration with Melissa. I'm so excited about today's episode because our bodies are one of the most amazing things on the earth, but for some reason, so many of us tend to not believe how beautiful we are, and beauty is from the inside and radiates out. But unfortunately, sometimes we just don't have the same relationship with our bodies as we'd like to. And Melissa knows this so well. So yes. Melissa, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about like your story?
Adorada ones. First, I just want to say thank you so much for this chat. I am actually right now sipping on some broth. So it's really like we're sitting and we're chatting. So I love this so much. And oh gosh. Okay. So a little bit about me. So I am Melissa Mejia. Hello, hello. I am the Adorada One. I am the One Activator. I support women all over the world to truly feel and be and embody the one within them. And I just am so elated that I get to have this opportunity to have this chat, because what we're going to talk about, what we're going to dive into is a lot of what I went through and through like my childhood and my teenage years. And now I'm almost 30 years old. Oh my goodness. But now I have come to this space where I feel so at home with myself, with my body, with who I am, that I would love to share it, because I used to be in my previous life a fitness trainer. I did nutrition, all of the pieces. So I have a lot of expertise on this, but not only just from the expertise of helping others, but also supporting myself. And in the journey of healing myself, I found my true calling, which has been the energetics and mindset behind everything that we do, which is who we are. And because of this, I have been able to continuously devote myself and adore my body no matter what phase I'm in. And I say that with a lot of certainty because I actually had my son a couple of years ago. So it was 4 years ago now. And with certainty, I know that I will love myself every single phase that I have, every single season that I'm in. And I also want to bring that awareness out to others so they know that's also possible instead of always maybe looking back at what was, right? Wanting to go back in time, like many of us say, when maybe we are focusing on our body or what we want out of health and fitness. We're like, I'd love to go back to who I was or how my body looked when I was 18, 20, 25. That usually is the time. So I want to tap into this of being the one energy and also the healing that went with it. So I'm very excited to be here.
Amazing. I'm so excited about this. So let's kick it off with a tough, like emotionally deep driven question.
Love it.
What was it? What was it? Can you recall the moment when you recognized that you were feeling like you weren't enough? Was there a turning point in your life when this started to happen?
Yeah. This is multi-layered, and this is the fun part, but also the part that where we get down and dirty, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a multi-layered type of feeling of not feeling enough. And this actually, for me personally, my personal experience was when I was a little girl. I grew up in a beautiful household with many cousins, family members all around us, and I felt more worthy and enough during that time. Like they always made me feel so loved. They always made me feel I am the one. Like I tell women now and the people in my world and all the world I want them to know. But when I came to a new country, which is the United States, I'm from Colombia. I am born and raised there. I came to United States for a better life, for the dream that we have heard so many times, and to be with family and to be with my mom's husband at that time. And that's when I began to feel like who I was, especially how I looked physically, was not enough. And a lot of it was because of what I saw outside, what I saw of like little kids, like in outside playing, etc. And of course, not feeling like I was even wanted or welcome. And it had nothing to do with them, and it had everything to do with me and the beliefs that I held during that time. I also was 7 years old. But what I was seeing is that I was not welcome because of the color of my skin. I was not welcome because of the color of my hair. And I do want to say that I lived in one of the best cities and places where there's so much richness in culture. But what I saw when I came here, everyone was so different than me. And I felt that time and I was like, wow, I'm not enough. And of course, during this time, it's also a whole new lifestyle, whole new thing. It was a whole situation there, an experience that made me feel like I was not enough. And as you go through the years, as I went through the years, through the educational system, and then through meeting people, et cetera, I started to feel like I did not belong here or there. I wasn't Colombian. I wasn't like American. I was like myself, but at the same time, I didn't know how to be myself. So at that time as well, I felt like, I was not enough. Of course, I went to what I could control, this idea of that I could fix myself, right? And this had to do with the way that I did my hair, the way that I dressed. And not only that, but now the relationship with myself, the relationship with my body, and the relationship with my food, right? Those are all the pieces that I could control. And throughout this experience that I had from childhood to puberty to teenage years, I did go through a lot of traumatic experiences. I went through the foster care system. I was sexually abused. There was a lot of different experiences that went to that, which kind of, I guess you could call it the Powder Puff Girls. And like in the beginning, they make like the big like portion, and then they come out the portion of it. Mine wasn't the good portion of the Powder Puff Girls. It was the portion of that bond of not enoughness, that bond of not worthy, that bond of not being able to see outside of what I was seeing. So with all that, I grew up with that mentality, that mindset, that belief. But as I grew up as well, I started to see that I did have control over something that I could focus on, and it was myself. And it was my mindset. And it was like how I was going to view myself. And I knew that I did not want to feel this anymore. Like I knew I didn't want to feel not at home with myself. It just didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel right. And we have that gut intuition that
Yep.
so many of us, maybe even your listeners, they know about, they listen to this. You have that, oh, that feeling within you.
Yeah.
And I had that feeling. And even though it was quieted down for so many years, I was like, this is not the way. Like, I know it. I feel it. I feel it. And every time I would do XYZ with my food, with how I talk to my body, every time that gut feeling got worse, instead of being like a feeling of, yes, this is the right path, it would be like like clenching. And I was like, this is not who I am. And I don't want this anymore. Like, I want to get out of this space. So little by little, I was actually able to support myself through the mindset of myself of what I wanted to focus on, because I couldn't focus on other people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't change the way others view me, but I could change the way I viewed myself.
I love that. The changing of the way that you viewed yourself. So before we get into how you changed in the way that you viewed yourself, let's talk for a second about how this affected your mental health, but mostly your physical health. What
Yes.
happened during the time that you had thought that you weren't enough? How did this affect your health?
Yes, of course. So a lot of it went with, again, focusing on what I could control. And a lot of what I could control was the amount of time that I would spend at the gym, the amount of time or the amount of times I would eat throughout the day, the amount of time that I spent with my food, and all of these pieces and all these puzzle pieces that kind of, again, created this not good potion, right? So at that space and at that time, it took a couple of years, but my body began to reject a lot. So it began to reject like gluten, it began to reject like dairy, it began to be very sensitive to other foods outside. It began to also be like, I was very tiny then. So when I say tiny, I was like 120 pounds or so. And even though, quote unquote, that's what the doctor would say, that's the good weight, that was not a good weight for me, because I did not feel even healthy. Like, I would be really tired. So I would need a lot of naps throughout the day. I would wake up throughout the night. So I did not have a circadian rhythm, like a flowy circadian rhythm. I had a circadian rhythm that was like held back by much. I had a lot of hormone disruptions. So during this time, I actually, instead of focusing on, how I was supporting myself, because that's what I thought in my mind, that I was supporting myself, that I was giving myself quote unquote health, because I was being skinnier. I was really focused on that health and mindset of it. Physically, I was not healthy. Physically, I was hurting. And I actually would travel to like Colombia, to where my home country is, and I would be sick. Like, I would be sick for weeks there, weeks on weeks. And they'd be like, why are you so sick? And I would go to the doctors, and then I wouldn't tell them, that I was like spitting my food out. I wouldn't tell them that I wasn't chewing my food completely. Like, I wouldn't tell them all of these negative things that I had going on, because they thought, quote unquote, because of my weight, like I was healthy. I was a healthy being. So a lot of it too, it's like, we have to really look at, when we look from the outside in, we never know what the other person is going through. So during this time, they never were able to figure out what's going on. But I actually knew exactly what was happening, because I was the one really creating this. And I was, again, really tired. My hormones were a hot mess expressed because of the amount of control that I would have with my food and exercise. So I did not feed my body enough. Plus, I would also exert out so much energy. So I didn't really have a lot of energy throughout the days and all of that. And that was throughout my teenage years that I would go through this. And I wouldn't say that I wanted to be differently, because now I can talk about it, and now I can also support others and help others in their own journeys and lives. But I do wish, that I knew a lot of what I know now, so I wouldn't have gone through like such hardships. And mentally, I would think of food, of my body all day long. Like, I had no mental capacity for anything else. Like, I hid it well, but my relationship with myself and my food, it was just so negative. All day long, I would be thinking of what I was going to eat next. And all day long, I was thinking like, what if I actually gained weight? What if like my body changes? What will I do? Like, all of these things that created actually anxiety and overwhelm. So like now I was anxious and now I was overwhelmed by things and life. And I remember people saying like, you always say that you're overwhelmed. Like I remember as I was like in my teenage years, it's like I was like overwhelmed and I was anxious and I was feeling like the nerves all the time instead of what I now know in my nervous system to be calm and to be at peace and to be present. Like I wasn't allowing myself to be present. I wasn't allowing myself to be here. So I feel like I was robbed of so much time from my family and from those that are no longer with me. And I wouldn't do it differently, right? And I can't take time back, but I so wish that I did allow myself that present time so I could take in all the moments that I had with my grandmother who's no longer here, with like my cousin who's no longer here, with people that are no longer here. I'm like, I really wish I had that so I could gift that to myself.
Absolutely. So at the peak of your eating disorder, you were in Colombia, the place where you were born. Food should come naturally because let's be real. Like I know when I go back to Thailand, I will eat everything in sight and I never get sick because it's the motherland. Like it's the food that your body reacts immediately to it. So you weren't eating when you were in Colombia. How difficult would that have been? Because I know in the Colombian culture, food is very cultural. Like food in any culture is extremely cultural.
Yes.
How are you hiding this from your
How did I do it? Yeah. So what I did is I would exert, like I would always have to be moving. Like I'd always have to go and work out and do all these things. And they always would be like, oh my God, I love that you work out so much. This is so amazing. This is so great. But in reality is so I could actually eat. So I could allow myself to eat because it's like, I can't allow myself to eat and have this food. And when I did,
you couldn't allow yourself to eat. Oh my God, my heart broke in that sentence. You can't allow yourself. Could you imagine having to give yourself permission? That's what you were doing. You worked out so much so that you could give yourself permission to eat.
Yes. Yes. Oh. So with that, I just got chills too. So with that being said, here I am, I'm looking at this and I'm like looking back into the time that I went through, but I would eat and I would eat a lot and then I wouldn't eat for many hours and then I would eat a lot and then I wouldn't eat for many hours. And it was like a lot of what we now know as binging. Like I did a lot of binging. There was no purging that I did, but I would say that there were many different instances where I did, like I said, I chewed my food and I spit it out. So at least I could taste it. And then I could like partially enjoy the flavor, but not the calorie amount of it. So that's when I knew I was like, this is not right. And I remember watching an intervention episode, and it was actually on her doing this exact thing. And I was like, holy crap. But again, I kept it to myself. Nobody knew. And I didn't tell anybody. I definitely feel like they knew something was going on. They knew something was happening, but I would even go ahead and I would, anytime that we would eat, and I knew we were going to eat a lot, at like the peak of what I went through with my relationship with myself in a negative way, I actually would put on a, like what we call a faja, like this, like very tight, corset. So I wouldn't quote unquote gain weight. This was like at the point, and I had multiple, I had 2 or 3 of them. And again, my mom was thinking that, yeah, I'm helping her, I'm supporting her. Like I love, because my mom had always wanted me to work out and be healthier. So she thought all of these things were actually not negative. Like she thought like I actually was looking out for myself, but in reality, I wasn't, because again, I would eat all the time and I would overeat and then I wouldn't eat and then I would go exercise. And again, it was like the cycle. And once you break the cycle, you can breathe again. Like the last time that I was in Colombia, which was before 2020, I actually was like, wow, this is what it gets to be when I'm like in my nervous system, when I'm fully like present and I actually get to enjoy my food. Like I actually get to enjoy these incredible meals. Like I felt the gratitude then of what I didn't hold the gratitude for back then. Like I enjoyed food, but it was always to an extent. Again, not allowing myself to fully enjoy it because I couldn't have it. Like, I just couldn't. Like, no, this was not quote unquote correct. It wasn't right for me. When in reality, it's like such a deep instilled, like, it just, I feel such gratitude for food now. And like the way that I see it, it no longer is what they call fuel, but it really is like a connection with like our ancestors and a connection with ourselves and our culture. Like, I enjoy it so much. And I also know too, I don't need to have all these treats all the time. Like, I get to say no when I want, when I don't want them. And I get to say yes when I do. Like, I have this focus now on like the positivity of it instead of focusing on the negativity that we can have.
Oh, that was packed. That was packed with emotion. I
Yes.
resonated heavily to it. It was, oh, so this took a massive toll on you as a person. And how, describe to us how, where your head was at, what was it like? I don't want to use these words, but they're the best words that are coming to mind at the moment. But what was it like to hate your body that much?
Gosh, that's such a good question, because I didn't show that I didn't like my body.
If anybody
Nobody
looking
saw.
at you would have said
Nobody
she's working
saw.
out, she's eating
Yes.
healthy, she's
Yes.
happy.
She's being her best self, being her best self. Like, she is slaying it at the gym. Like, I see her. She's working out heavily. She does it intensely. And of course, she treats herself like, hell yeah, do this. But in reality, it was a lot of times in the mirror just pointing out to what I wasn't enough of. Like, this I wasn't enough, and this I'm not enough. Like, why do I look like this? What do I do this? And a lot of comparison. There was so much comparison. There was so much comparison. There was so much, it was just spiteful. It was so spiteful against myself. And again, nobody saw this. Nobody saw all of that I went through. Nobody saw the negativity that I held on myself. And as I began to heal with my own focus on my mindset and energetics and who I am now, and like in this present moment as a being and as a human, I really was like just being able to just breathe. Like, it was just like a moment of relief. Like, slowly I began to take off the armor that I didn't even know I had, like that I didn't even know I was holding on to. Like, I was holding on to this heavy weight and it wasn't even in my body.
Yeah.
It was on all of the thoughts that I had. So I really hit it really well. But I also wish that I didn't. So I would have support like a lot faster than I did, because I also know who I am now. It's because of who I was, right?
Right.
It's because of who I was. But at the same time, I feel like if I would have been a different person, I maybe would still have gone through this phases, and I still would go through what I created, because I created this for myself. With what I saw with outside sources, but I created this for myself, and this was my life full time. Like, I went to school full time. I was a friend full time, and I was a daughter full time, but I also was against my body full time. Like, it was a very gosh, it
It
was
sounds
so like
exhausting.
heavy. It was so exhausting. It was so heavy. And now I get to just live in my life. Like, I just get to live my life and just be. It's so amazing to just now, for example, like in the summer, I put on my swimsuit. I just now go and I just dip my toes into the pool, and I'm just like there. Like, it's just like here in the moment. Like, I cannot explain the feeling that you just receive from just being here in the moment now. Like, it just, oh man, it's just like a sigh of relief. And again, your nervous system is just so happy because it's such at peace. And that's also what I want to create. And of course, that has brought in more health, that has brought in a glowing skin, that has brought in more energy, that has brought in more joy, more bliss, more confidence, more power. Like, it's brought in so much that I wouldn't go back. Like, if you'd ask me and be like, hey, would you take the weight that you were back then with what you had and the armor that you held and all that, not physical weight that I held, but that mental health that I held, I would be like, oh no, like, I would take who I am today over anything in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the breaking point? What was the breaking point that you were like, enough's enough. I need to start loving myself. And this battle that I'm dealing with externally, internally is like, enough is enough.
Yes. So this was like, so I feel like I fully believe and I see that people that are in our world are also mirrors to who we are, and our mirrors into like how we
Absolutely.
treat ourselves and how we love ourselves. So I began to notice that the people in my world were not the best people in many ways, like the friendships that I held and especially to the relationships that I held with those who I'd want to be with. Like I started to notice they were truly not the ones for me. They truly were not the ones for me. And I was not treating myself as the one. I was not treating myself as the first. And I began to really see how there has to be a correlation. And I also went to school for psychology and criminal justice, but especially psychology. I got really into it. By that time, I was in college now. And I was like, there has to be a correlation. So I began to really change. And it was a pivotal moment when I was in school, when I was like doing like child psychology, when I was doing social psychology. All of these pieces were falling together in a very beautiful way. And my breaking point was when I really noticed that those who were in my world did not have me as their best interest and did not put me first, like I put them first, or like how I thought of them. And then I'm like, wow, I'm putting everyone else in a pedestal, but what about me? And then I also began to see I'm really truly not living my life. Like I was like, I really can't believe like this is going to be my life. Like I started questioning, like this cannot be my life forever. I cannot be obsessed with food forever. I cannot be obsessed with exercise. Like this takes such a big toll. Like think about it. It's like a full-time job. Like this is just not okay. And I began to notice that things were not okay, but it really was like that breaking point because there were so many points, but I still kept going. I still kept going, being sick in Colombia for the time that I would go back and all of that. But I still kept going. And I was like, no, but really the breaking point was when I noticed, and as I got more wiser with my age, I was like, these ones around me are not the ones for me, and I'm not the one for them. So who am I? And then I noticed that with all of that I had, the obsession with food, with exercise, I couldn't really know myself because I didn't know anyone else. So it was like a point of, it was like quote unquote the breaking point, but it quote unquote like the moment where I actually was able to give myself life.
So you gave yourself permission to fall back in love with yourself. I could not imagine that journey was easy.
No, no, not at all. And we're still in the journey. Like it's a evolving journey.
This is a journey you go on daily. Yeah,
yes,
it lasts forever.
Yep, it's
Absolutely.
phases. But now it comes so more naturally.
Oh, that those were keywords. Naturally. So go back for a second. You made the conscious decision to fall in love with yourself. That journey couldn't have been easy.
Yes.
But what steps did you take after you made the conscious decision?
Yes. So what I began to look at first was my awareness, like the awareness with me, right? The awareness of who I was, what were my actions, what were my beliefs, like what did I see over with my body? Like I felt that this wasn't my home, and I felt that I wasn't living in the body that I loved. And I knew, because I felt it within me, that it could be different. I was like, I know that this can be different, and I know this can feel different. Now allow myself to feel different, right? Now I wanted to allow myself to do this. So a lot of it was awareness at first. It was like awareness of the actions that I had, the thoughts that came in my mind. That's where I started to notice the beliefs that I was holding, right? Noticing like where I was actually putting too much energy on something and someone else instead of myself, all of those pieces, right? But what I even have spoken to clients about is first become aware before you even take any action. You got to really become aware on what you are doing already. What are the habits that you're holding? What are the thoughts that are coming in? How do you speak to yourself? Like this is so important because we can't take action without having awareness. If we take action without having awareness, it just like rewriting like over a cassette and then the cassette like goes like that sound that it makes if
Yep.
you rewrite over it, and
Yep.
it doesn't work. It needs to be like completely in this space of a blank slate, but from, again, you're already aware of the things that you're doing, you're already aware of the actions that you're taking. And then for me, anything before even doing anything physically and with my food, I did it all mentally. Like I began to do and work on journaling, which wasn't something I was working on previously. I began to just kind of brain dump all the things that were coming in my mind about me. And usually during that time, especially, it was a lot to do with my body and myself and how I was not feeling in my body, the joy or the happiness. I was just not feeling good with me, despite the physical look, of tiny, of being tiny, of being like that aspect of like healthy. I was truly not healthy. So it was like that weird moment that I had. And I was just like, wait a minute, like I'm saying that I'm health and I'm putting all these things and thoughts in that, even for people, because back by that time I was already training clients and everything. But I was like, this is also not healthy. The way I speak to myself, like, how can I also be doing this with clients if I'm not doing this with myself? Like I was in an embodiment of what I was actually teaching. So I wanted to be, and I wanted to become it. So awareness, really getting focused on the thoughts that are coming in your mind, the actions that you take. So now you can look at, how can I begin to change them? How can I begin to focus on making them different? And this again began with the mental rocks that I wanted to deal with, like the small rocks. And a lot of it went with my belief that I held, like with myself, saying like to me, my body is, and I would write down like what it was during that time and how I felt in it. To me, I am XXXXX. And a lot of that's where the not worthiness came out. That was like the not enoughness came out. That's where a lot of it came out. And I was like, wow, I was shocked, because now I was seeing this and like pen and paper, and I was like, wow, this is actually what I think of myself. So I, instead of doing like as if I was doing it with myself, it was more like if I was like the bird's eye view, like I really wanted to change completely. But also I want to say that this is just who I am. Like I always want to gather the information. I'll always know that I will be able to, no matter what, I'm resilient. So I knew that I was going to figure it out as I went. But of course it took many years. But those were like the key steps where you begin. And then of course, that's when you start to notice and look at, okay, if I'm not doing these things for me, for example, for me, I would work out three hours a day or so during the day. So for me, it was like,
So it's intensive.
yes, it was like if I did the 3 hours, where do I actually feel good? And I started to notice like, wow, yeah, I really 45-minute to an hour sessions. Like those are really good. And I'm like, I start to feel really good about it. And I still feel like I feel good with myself. And I feel like I crushed it. I'm gonna start doing that. And that's also when I started doing like something that's called CrossFit. So I started doing CrossFit, and CrossFit is specifically 1 hour classes. And those are super helpful as well. That's a whole other take, but it supported me during that time as well, because I started seeing the evidence outside of me of like women being strong and women being like fierce and confident with their bodies and with the capabilities. Possibly maybe they weren't feeling confident in themselves, but they were very honed in their capabilities of what they were doing. So I started really being like, oh, I love this. I love that aspect, because now I can see the strength that I hold. Now I see the vitality that I also get to have and the energy that I get to bring out. So I was during that time feeling more confident in myself. And of course, I noticed other things too that were not as quote unquote healthy for me, that could have supported others, but no longer did for myself. But these things were how I went through it. And it took years and years. This was like it's still, of course, I'm still going through it every single day, but this was like, I would say like a 5-year kind of journey with all of it. Like this was like a 5 journey of really, but again, thoughts come first, awareness and thoughts always come first.
Absolutely. Wow. How long did it take you to hit your stride and fall in love with yourself?
I feel like I can't put a pin on it because it just occurred. Like it just happened. Like it felt like it was a long time coming, but I knew that I felt it when I no longer thought only about food and I no longer only thought about calories in and out and the exercise that I would do and if I earned my food and if I was able to give myself permission of food and I was able to give myself permission of to rest, right? And I started to notice, wow, huh, this feels good. Like it was
Yeah.
like it's like we can't, and always tell people because I've had clients ask me around the world, they're like, hey, how do I know that I am like falling in love with me? And it's just a knowing. It just you just feel it. It's like a feeling of like calm and a feeling of like peace and a feeling of wow, remember when I would think about food all day, remember when I would think about my body all day long, remember when I would go in the mirror instead of being like, oh my gosh, you look amazing, wow, instead of that you would be like, ugh, like looking at yourself sideways and look at yourself frontwards and all of these ways of being like, oh, I do not look good. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, what can I do? Oh, wow, I skipped the gym, whatever it was. And I also noticed because I used to get a lot of anxiety if I couldn't go to the gym. Like my biggest
Mm.
thing was like the morning I have to go to the gym or anytime, or if it didn't happen, I was in school, whatever it was, like I had to go to the gym. So if I didn't go to the gym, like I had a lot of anxiety and I had a lot of I can't eat or because again, earning my food, I wasn't earning my food, I wasn't earning the right to enjoy and to feel good and all of these pieces. So I started to notice like I can go through my day without doing it. And I don't feel guilty. It was like a huge feeling of guilt and a huge feeling of like shame and that I was holding like, who are you? And in all these ways. So I really noticed it became like that as it just occurred, but it was like a long time coming of noticing again that my anxiety was like completely like
Yeah.
still and like the anxiety wasn't in a rev when I couldn't go to the gym or I couldn't get my workout in. And it was like, you know what? I will have tomorrow. And now I have that mentality of this is because I still am very much in love with working out and everything like that. But for example, before we did our recording today, our chat, I actually went to the gym and it was like 45 minutes that I went to the gym and I was like, okay, this is amazing. I've been doing a little bit more cardio for myself. So that actually has been a little much of kind of a turning point as well, because before I used to do so much cardio that I began to really not like cardio,
Cardio?
that I
Yeah, yeah.
began to have that aspect of it. But being like, you know what? I do love doing this, or I do love walking around. I love it because I get to feel the wind in my hair and I get to feel the outside instead of being like, I am so into the steps that I have to take. Like those
Right.
do matter for my aspect of what I desire for myself, but it's no longer the thing. Like it no longer is it.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing.
Thank
So,
you.
one last kind of question. How beautiful is life for you right now? And how much have you fallen in love with where you're at right now? Because I'm going to tell you guys, like, you'll be able to see this on obviously my Instagram reels and stuff, but there's a big smile on this woman's face. Like, clearly you've fallen in love with yourself. Clearly you're happy in your skin, which is what every person should try to achieve, be happy in your skin. But tell us what that feels like for you and what life looks like for you now that you've overcome.
Hey, cry. Thank you. It feels I'm living so presently, and I always feel like I can live more presently. Like can always be more present, and more intentional with my life. But it feels just like peace. It just feels like pure peace, and I didn't know peace in my whole life. So now the fact that I get to be at peace, it's whoa, and be with peace. Like now I'm like really feeling the joy that I can be like because I can do anything. I can, if I desire this, I will have it. If I don't, if I do and I do, and if I don't, I still am worthy of all of what I am and all of who I am. So for me, I just feel that essence of myself. Like I no longer am focused on what I have to do, and no longer am focused on like the actions that I have to take and that I need to take in order to achieve X goal or X desire or want, but it's who am I being today? Like I get to just be and I get to just play. I feel like I am a 29-year-old, but living in like the childhood again in a beautiful way that I get to just explore. Like I was not able to gift that to myself for my teenage years and for all the time that I went through, because that's what I knew. That's what I could control. But now that I'm just focused on life, like now I'm like being able to create memories, to hold memories, to have them, to build in a beautiful light. Like it just feels so peaceful and so calm. My body also didn't know calm. It didn't understand it, because of all the times and all the days, like any free time that I would have, I would always be either looking at recipes that were low calorie, or I'd be looking at how much food had I eaten all day. And if I had this meal next and this meal next, did it fit my macros? It did not fit my macros. And it was just like, oh man, it was like a marathon every day, So now knowing not to run a marathon and just being in the present moment. And like I said, just going to the pool with my bathing suit, being able to dip my toes in something. So of course you get to do that. But now it's, wow, yeah, I get to do that. Like it's that moment, like yes, I can. Yes, I can do that, instead of being like, no, you should be eating, or you should be making your food, or you should be focused on this. No, I get to just be off my phone and be off like everything and just enjoy and just be. Like I can just be. Like it's amazing.
I love that. I love that. As we wrap this up, where can people find you? Because listen, you want to connect with this gorgeous soul. She has been pivotal in when I was looking for guests. Melissa stood out almost immediately. We had one conversation and I was like, there's no way that you can't come on my podcast. So where can people find you? Also, guys, her Instagram is fire, like legitimate fire. Where can people go and find you?
Thank you so much. I'm so intentional with it. So thank you so much. So you can find me at Melissa Mejia Official. So that's my Instagram name and my TikTok name as well. I'm dabbling into TikTok as well. I'm having a little bit of fun. You could also find me on Threads, also at Melissa Mejia Official. But Facebook, Melissa Mejia, or you can also go into my website, and sheisofficial.com, and you can actually find amazing goodies and gifts that I have under, I think it's called like the Adorada goodies and gifts or something like that along those lines. But you'll see it right when you get into the website. You'll see like I have a meditation, I have activations, I have different things that I've done in the past. And of course, any of my courses as well for the one is for you. So I would love to just get to know all of you. And thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. I love that. All right, Melissa, one final question. What is your favorite coffee order?
Oh my God, can I be honest?
Yes, please be honest.
I don't drink coffee. I not drink coffee.
How are you from Colombia and don't drink coffee?
I am the most not Colombian coffee drinker in the world. Like I do not drink coffee.
I love this.
Yes, it honestly makes me feel anxious as well. And that feeling that I had when I went through this, it was just like a not feeling. It was like a no, thank you. I'm authentic about it. And I actually was talking about it yesterday too. Somebody was like, how are you Colombian? And I was like, there's everyone has a different taste. But if you give me a little bit of like chicken broth, like I'll be happy. Beef broth. Yes. Okay. Talk to me about that.
I love that. That is amazing. As we wrap up this enlightening conversation with Melissa, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude in sharing your inspirational journey with us. Melissa, your thoughts have been both thought-provoking and empowering, reminding us all the importance of recognizing our inherent worth and embracing our unique paths. Besties, I hope you're eager to take the wisdom we've shared today and infuse it into your own coffee-fueled adventures for self-discovery. So grab your favorite brew, bestie, and remember, just like your coffee, you are indeed enough, just as you are. If today's episode added a touch of warmth and inspiration to your day, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. By doing so, you won't miss out on any future heartwarming journeys we'll embark on together. And hey, if you enjoyed our flavorful conversations and the embrace of this beautiful podcast, why not take a moment to leave a review? Your thoughts and your feedback mean the world to me, and it might even help others discover the magic of Share a Latte. So whether it's a few words or a heartfelt reflection, your review goes a long way in spreading the joy. Life is like a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, a blend of experiences that come together to create something truly remarkable. Just like every bean contributes to unique flavor, every cup in our cup of stories adds a depth of richness to our journey. Until next time, besties, remember you have the power to turn your trials into triumphs and your scars into stars. Keep believing in yourself, keep chasing those dreams, and above all else, keep thriving. This is Min taking her last sip from the Share a Latte podcast, reminding you that life happens and coffee helps.